I don't, well, aluminum, so, you know, here goes nothing. We are back in the shop working on the world's cheapest Turbo 240SX drift build, and we are getting her done. We're gonna dive into getting the ECU wired, getting some of the grounds run to the engine block, where the computer is gonna sit, seeing how we're gonna tie into the original harness to tap into the fuel pump, kind of get everything situated to where we can plug in a laptop and make sure we're getting all of the sensors back to the ECU. I'm missing the map sensor, which we will be running a GM 3-bar or a 2-bar sensor, and I'll show you when I get that how we're gonna install it. This is gonna be the third ECU that I've wired, and I'm getting pretty good at it. I'm not gonna go through the entire process of wiring it into the loom and getting it all set up. If you wanna learn more about how to do that, I'll link a video here, and that's gonna be from my D21. We're going to start cutting the harness up. I've actually already labeled this one. You can see here, I've already labeled most of it. Now we're gonna break into the ECU, look at the wiring diagrams, and then hopefully get this thing put together to where we can try and fire it. The only thing keeping us from actually starting it is going to be that map sensor, which I think you'll be able to idle without the map sensor and maybe just utilize the MAF. Nope, there's no MAF. There's no MAF, yeah, but remove the MAF. The MAF is gone. We'll figure it out. To start the process, you need your ECU, which these are a little pricey. I got this one for 350 bucks, something like that. It comes with your connection cable to the laptop, an 8-foot harness, and we won't be utilizing a lot of this. We're gonna be probably cutting it halfway and then utilizing the factory harness, and I'm gonna splice it together. And you need your ECU, and these, I know they don't look like a lot, but they work so well. I've never had an issue with these micro squirts. My RB powered S13 has a mega squirt, which is the really nice version of this one, and I'm gonna be honest, it gives me more headaches than these ever have. And I don't know if it's just because these are so simple and there's not a lot of features to them. Like, I think you have like 8 outputs. No, I think it's less than that. I think you have like 4 outputs. We'll take a look. I mean, that's all you really need, unless you're trying to run like boost by gear or like nitrous or water meth or, you know, something crazy. I'm sure with a 4-cylinder, you could run water meth and IAC valves and stuff like that because you have so many more outputs because you're not utilizing them for the injectors and the coils like a V8. So I know most of you are like, what the f is he talking about? It's fine, I'll show you. So to start wiring your micro squirt, you're gonna need the original wiring diagram for the car and the ECU pinout for the actual pins on the ECU that was originally in the car. You won't need this unless you are tying into the harness like I am. On Yoshi, I didn't utilize any of his harness. I just built the entire harness, so I didn't need the pinout because I'm not trying to trace wires back to sensors. On this one, we're gonna be tying into that harness, so I need to know exactly what color the wire is to what sensor so that I can wire my pigtail from the universal harness into that harness so that I can utilize all the engine grounds, the sensor grounds. I don't have to run more wires than I need to. It'll hopefully make it a little bit easier on me so I don't have to wire the entire thing again because it gets tedious and I don't want to do that. We're going to get the ECU mounted in the car. That's your first step to get the length of your harness. I think I need to send one more wire to the back where the electrical boxes are because whoever owned this prior to me put all of the relays and fuses in the back of the car. I don't know. It's a mess. But let's get this thing in there and get this thing running. This is where your main wiring loom comes off of the engine. You can see it's basically still there. I just chopped it right here at the firewall. The biggest issue I'm gonna have, I think, is these shielded wires for your timing sensors. So this is from the distributor, and then you also have one for the MAF that's shielded. Once you cut these, you're gonna have to put some shielding back around them so you don't have signal interference when you're running the motor because there's a lot of electromagnetics going on around the engine. So when it's running at full blast, you could have some interference in the line so that it's not picking up timing right. So we'll be really careful when we're tying those together. Everything else is, it's pretty straightforward. The biggest thing is your sensor grounds, your 5-volt reference, and being careful with your 12-volt. Don't be spreading 12-volt everywhere. You'll fry the computer and you will be very sad. We're gonna run our ECU through this bulkhead here and run it into the footwell, I'm assuming, where the factory one was. It's like a fraction of the size, so it's gonna be really nice. What I do, I usually just Velcro these, and then I'll put some rivets in them so that they sit against the wall. Let me get you in here. I'll show you where the ECU is gonna go. Oh yeah, and if you don't know what this car is for, this is actually going to be for my girlfriend to come to the track, lay down some rubber, have some fun with the boys, and just get out there. If you haven't seen this car in the last episodes, we actually just put a new interior in it, new carpet, new seats, but it's a pretty decent little car. You know, we picked this car up for almost nothing from my friend Anthony, and honestly, I couldn't be happier with it. So this is the passenger side footwell where the ECU usually goes. So this is where your factory ECU gets mounted, right here on these two holes, and it sits back in that cubby over there. Let's start putting the wires through there and get this ECU mounted so we can start running the wires to the harness. And you know, we're almost done with this thing, man. She's almost running. This connector is small enough to be, it'll fit through that opening. So if we ever do need to pull the engine, we can just disconnect it from the ECU and pull it through. It's just really tight, and I'd rather just put this end through the inside. So what we're gonna do is take this little bit of cable here, and we're gonna slide it into the cab, and then I'm gonna duct tape the harness to the end of the cable, pull it through into the engine bay, and there's our cable. Just like that, there's your harness. Not a huge fan of wiring. It's kind of like a slow day. You know, there's not much noise in the shop, not much dust. My eyeballs don't have pieces of metal in them. So I'm going to time lapse most of this since it's pretty boring. It's pretty straightforward. If you can read wiring diagrams and understand the pinout of engines, you can wire a micro squirt almost into anything. I think I'm going to clean the loom up and basically just recover it with a hard plastic. The reason being is I need to run more grounds to the engine block to prevent looping. Let's start time-lapsing this and move on to something more exciting. So there you have it. I know I kind of skipped through a lot of that, but it's pretty boring, to be honest with you. So all I wired up was the map, but we don't have the actual sensor yet, but I left the pigtail exposed. We've got our coolant for the gauge, so I can get the coolant readout on the dash. The throttle position sensor, we've got the coolant temperature, the intake air temperature, all 4 injectors. We have the crank angle sensor from the distributor, and we have our coil ignition control over here. Just mounted the coil to the frame rail here because there's really nowhere else to put it, and I wanted to keep it away from the heat. I also have the pigtails for the oxygen sensor just tied up against the firewall here because when I put the exhaust out the hood, I'll put in a 3-wire oxygen sensor. I'm going to run down and get some aluminum pieces welded. We need to get the throttle body modified so I can get a 90-degree elbow to the intercooler piping. I also want to burn on the blow-off valve as well. But let's get that throttle body off so we can get this thing down there, get it welded up, and then we'll move on to getting this thing running. This is the MAF sensor, MAF, mass airflow sensor, that we will not be utilizing. So I'll be welding this hole closed here where it actually gets the reading. But what we're gonna do is get a piece of IC piping, get it lined up, mark it so that we know where to line it up. So this goes kind of like that, but obviously not that tall. All right, let's go weld it. We got her tacked in there. Come on now. Look at that. Oh, buddy. Looking pretty good. Well, aluminum, so, you know, here goes nothing. Bro had to step in. size of this guy's filler rod. What is that, like 1/4 inch?
Yeah.
All right, bro. Just like that, we're back. Quick little trip down to Cooper's shop. He doesn't like to be on film, you know, he doesn't like to be recorded, so. Okay, that's what happens. We did manage to get us some custom turbo parts. You like that? Yeah. You could also use, I think a Ford Ranger V6 has like an adapter thing that goes on top of that. And it actually fits and bolts on it. That's what I've heard. I really didn't look into it because I don't care, you know. We just build one of these. And we can block off the MAF sensor. And I blocked off the little port that it uses. So, you know, 2 birds, 1 stone kind of thing. Clean these a little bit and get it painted. We'll get these installed, and then we'll move on to probably fabricating the shifter, just because there's no shifter in the car, which is, you know, a problem, so. Oh, it needs oil. Yeah, we gotta put oil in it. Oil filter, gear oil. You know the deal. All the things. We also got our blow-off valve flange welded on, so, you know, that's good to hook. All right, so let's get the top hat back on. I got it all painted up. Looks pretty legit. Definitely not gonna clear the hood. Good thing we don't have one. If we decide to buy a hood, we'll modify it and make it work. Now we have to connect the intercooler to the throttle body, and I'm going to put the blow-off valve in here. We also got this one painted up. So we got this nice little 45 unit here. That might do us f***ing wonders. So this is what we've come up with. It's not the prettiest, and these clamps are really cheap, so we'll probably have to swap these out eventually. We'll get the blow-off valve installed, just a cheap $30 eBay blow-off valve. You know the deal. 30-something bucks. Goes right there. Boom, bang, blow-off valve done. Still waiting on the little elbow here, but not a problem. We can still start it without the elbow. We'll get the shifter fabbed up real quick, get the front of this motor put back together, get the radiator installed, and then build some tabs for it. And then I don't have a shroud for the fan, so we're gonna have to figure out what we want to do. I drove the truck around without a shroud, and I think it's not a huge deal right now, but once we start putting down laps and really keeping the RPMs around 4 grand, she's probably gonna need a shroud. Maybe not. There's no front end, there's no bumper, there's no obstructions to the radiator, and the radiator's oversized for the 240 anyway. So we should be good to go there. Okay, so it's not necessary putting carpet in here, but it is nice. And this car is for my girlfriend, so I had to put carpet in it. I think that's the rule. So it looks like a clear shot. I am gonna go cut this shaft in half and then come bring it back in here. Maybe we can leave this dash in one piece. That would be pretty cool. It seems we're gonna have to cut this out. So the shifter is supposed to be right here. Might just cut it and spin the shifter 180, tack it back together. I'm thinking we leave it long. Oh yeah. This is gonna be funny. Okay, and here we have it. D21 to S13 shifter. And she's a long one, my guy. Oh yeah. And it's good. Doesn't interfere. Everything's comfy. Oh, this is gonna rip, baby. Next, well, would you look at that? That just came in the mail. This is our GM style map sensor. It's a 3-bar sensor that we're just gonna mount externally on the firewall somewhere around here, and then run a vacuum line from the intake. We got our sensor mounted to the firewall. It came with a pigtail, so we can just solder it into the existing harness. throw the radiator hoses on. These hoses were from the D21, so again, free. We're gonna have to build a custom mount for the lower and the upper, and it's probably gonna sit kind of far back, all weird. It is what it is for now. We'll eventually get a new radiator and get some new hoses so that we can get a hood on it. But again, no hood. Alright, so what we're looking at here is the underside of that radiator, and you can see it's sitting so far back it's not even close to where the 240 radiator mounts. But I have this unistrut that is the exact diameter of these holes, and it's the exact distance between these two pickup points. All I gotta do is trim out the bottom side of this unistrut so it sits flush on top of the torsion mount and slip it in there. I don't want to weld anything into place because it's not going to be permanent solution, but this is going to work well. So let's get these notched, slid in there, and see how it fits. So we got it notched. I just notched the lower half unistrut, and I had the top of the unistrut resting on top of these brackets. And I think I might just rivet it for now. I'll just drill a hole through the top and put 2 rivets in there, and that'll hold it. I mean, I don't think there'll be any problem there. And then we'll move on to the top, get that mounted. And this will eventually change, so not too concerned about it. These things are pretty haggard too. This guy must have jumped it and you know, he must have had some fun. Alright, it's alright. It's cool with me. Got these nice big rivets. That'll be a little bit low profile so it doesn't interfere with the radiator. Good to go. Fits nice. Now I just need to make probably brackets that come off these bolts here and go right there. Just so I don't want to weld to this yet because this whole assembly is probably going to come forward, and I'm only going to need little tabs here. So we just need, oh man, it's lined up too. I just need a bar there and a bar there. Here's what I've come up with. I've got some round stock, some galvanized tube, or I'm not sure what it is. I'm just going to flatten one end and round it off. I'll use that, drill a hole, same thing up here, just a little piece. And I think it should work nicely. It looks good. It actually almost matches the front. So for temporary purposes, it should be just fine. Let's get these plugs installed. I think it goes 1, 2, 4, 3. I'm going to see if we have the oil feed. Go get some oil. We need to get the oil filter and fill the transmission up. I saw this trick, how people fill up the transmissions. I'm gonna show you. It's pretty smart. You're gonna like this. So we're gonna put some gear oil in this thing. So these caps are too brittle. You can't really drill through them without them cracking. So on this one, we're gonna drill a hole in the side of the can here. We're going to stick our hose down in there. Put the cap on there. Drill a hole right here. And now you have a gear oil bong. Let me show you how it works. Alright peeps, check it out. You get up in here, get that tube up in there. Just take some air pressure. Alright, so we're going to throw the oil filter in it. We got that heavy duty diesel oil, 1540. It doesn't get too cold here, so it's a good oil choice, and it's what we got. We're going to send it. Get a little on the seal, lube that thing up. And look what I just found. This is a $18 oil feed kit, and it comes with the line, the little T we're going to screw into the oil filter housing. Alright, so here we are. This is our oil pressure sending unit. There's our new oil filter. That's dripping a little bit of oil, but that's fine. We're going to pull the sending unit out. We're going to thread in a T, and then we'll block off one of the ports because we don't need it, and then we'll run the line up and over to the turbo. Alright, and this is what you end up with. Sensor and this little T that you block off one of the sides and then screw it back into the block, and then you have a port for the turbo feed. We'll just snake the line from the top down and it should just clip right in there. I don't know if you can see that in there, but screwing her into the T right there. Oh, like that. Get her screwed down. Hit her with a wrench. We're almost ready to fire her up, dude. Comes with this little plate gasket. This is actually an orifice. It reduces the volume into the cartridge. What I'm going to do is leave this hose off since I don't have an oil pressure gauge. I'm going to put this in a bucket and I'm going to crank it over until I get oil pressure from here. That'll tell me that the oil filter is full and that it's pumping it up to the top end. And then we'll connect this right here and we'll put some gas in it and see if it fires. Now we'll get some oil in here and crank it over. Let me show you my setup here. I don't have a 2-gauge wire to run from the battery to the front yet, so I just rigged me up a second battery to the starter. Yeah, it's gonna work. All right, we're gonna crank it over. We got the battery charger on it. We are going to crank it over until we get some oil coming out of here. Then we're gonna throw some gas in it. Oh yeah, I gotta throw the tune in. I actually just took the tune from Yoshi. You guys I keep referencing Yoshi, but I know a lot of you are new. This is Yoshi. Yes, same motor, same turbo, same everything, except for the injectors. So if we want to drive this thing around, because I haven't ordered the injectors yet, we'll just swap the injectors between this and Yoshi and go rip this thing in a different video. But I'll order the injectors. They're just so expensive. You know, I just gotta bite the bullet, I guess. All right, well, while we wait for that to charge up, we will get this tune uploaded to the ECU. Don't get me wrong, I don't know how to tune anything, but I can definitely upload a tune that I already have because Yoshi is the exact same setup. The only thing is the injectors are different right now. They will be the same. So let me turn the ECU on and let's see if we can connect. That's pretty good. Alright, let it rest. Let it rest. It's fine. Leave the key on. Okay. Key. No smoke. Still not on fire. That's good. Going to Tuner Studio here. I uploaded Yoshi's tune to the ECU. You can see my throttle position sensor is basically at 24%. So we'll need to adjust the throttle position sensor so it's at 0. Let's crank it over, see if we're getting our RPM here. So we've got no engine speed, so we're gonna have to figure out why. We got everything in there, we got everything hooked up. I've got engine speed, I've got RPM coming from the distributor, the crank sensor. I've got the injector pulse, everything's running good, but we have no spark, and it has nothing to do with my side. I tested ignition output 1, and it's good to go. The coil is just not responding to anything I'm doing right now, so it has power, it's got everything to it. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if the wiring inside the car portion, because the coil is wired before I had the car. So whoever took all of the fuse boxes and relay boxes out of the front kind of ran everything and extended it. So who knows what's going on with that. So unfortunately, you're not going to see it run in this video because I want to get this video uploaded tonight so you can see it Monday, and that's just how it goes sometimes. You win some, you lose some. Sorry, you're going to have to wait another week to see it run, but it's life. That'll be it for this video. If you enjoyed the video, if you enjoy the car, drop a like, leave a comment, hit the notification bell. It doesn't cost you anything, and it helps me out a lot. We'll catch you next week with a running car, hopefully, and maybe we'll get it on the dyno. I don't know. Will David be able to sort out the wiring with the coil? Be sure to tune in next week to see if he can get this piece of shit running.